my friends. Welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me today for this reading where we will be focusing on Saturn moving into Pisces and how that transit will be impacting you on an individual level. And there definitely are a lot of themes around how it's impacting us on a collective level as Saturn carries that really determined and focused energy, really ambitious and going after achieving goals. But seeing it moving into Pisces is very interesting because of the intuitive interest of Pisces, the more inner and etheric realm that we're going to be using and have access to that Saturn energy to really go deep into the inner self and see where we have boundaries, limits, and different areas that sort of may need adjustment or flexibility or maybe even starting from scratch in some cases and really looking at outdated beliefs and patterns. Very interesting time for us to check out your chart, having a look to see how this transit looks in your chart. Where will Saturn be moving in your chart? From which house to which house, and settling there for about 2.5 years. So we have access to this energy for quite some time to really explore and dive deep into the self, into the inner realms, and certainly that will have an impact on the collective as well. So let's get started. I'm really excited about this set of readings. We're going to run through the zodiac from Aries to Pisces, and we're going to stick to 2 decks today. We're going to use the chakra deck and the tarot deck to see if we can receive very clear and concise messages for you, sun, moon, and rising in each sign. All right, we're going to get started with Aries. Aries, sun, moon, and rising. Let's get started here. What messages do we have for Aries, sun, moon, and rising for this Saturn transit into Pisces for Aries? Okay. It's coming through in the solar plex chakra. We see prayer. So that gives me this idea of correspondence with the universe. This is praying on a level, it feels like to gain confidence, clarity, personal power, that I can energy of the solar plex. So as you are sort of reflecting as this transit happens on March the 7th, which is today, would have happened this morning. So you might find yourself thinking and putting out your intentions through prayer, reflecting in thought, and then sort of corresponding that thought. You might find yourself really wanting to focus on what those I can statements are. Perhaps your personal power and confidence, Aries, needs that sort of emphasis and focus today. Let's see for Aries. Yeah, interesting. I was thinking about communication when I was focusing on this idea of correspondence. So seeing the Queen of Swords tells me that you're not only focusing on how you're communicating, but you're also seeking truth in all its forms and bringing an end to situations that maybe had been absent. Seeing the 10 of Swords in reverse, which tells me that the worst is over in terms of any kind of struggles. I feel like Saturn's transit is going to help clarify communication for you and clarify prayer in the sense of your correspondence, even to the universe, being very clear and empowering, almost in gratitude rather than in that sort of wanting sort of energy. Instead of praying for what you want, almost using prayer as a mechanism to correspond gratitude and to clarify communication so that it's very clear. Feels like there may have been some endings that are coming through for Aries here that wouldn't have been in balance anyway, seeing the 6 of Pentacles here with the 2 of Cups. So this tells me that communication and setting intentions in communication in relationships, really being clear in relationships, making sure that the communication lines are open both ways, not just having an audience for your talk or need to speak, but also being an audience, being a witness, being an audience to someone else's expression. Feeling like that this idea of needing balance in relationships, that may be where Aries is going to be focused for this transit. This idea of really developing honest, balanced communication that is two-way. So that means listening and talking and expressing. So being really in balance with that seems to be where your energy may see a shift. Or seeing the Four of Pentacles on the bottom of the deck here for Aries, making me feel like this is a pattern that needs to be examined. Is the energy around communication and relationships sort of built on fear of saying the truth? Is there a people-pleasing energy that needs to be examined, evaluated, and released? Where instead of focusing on what we think the other person wants to hear, we're really focused on just speaking our truth and then being open to hear our partner's truth, and to sort of leave that idea of a limited mindset that says no one will ever understand me, or I don't know how to express myself, to really step into a more empowered statement that says I can communicate my needs honestly without feeling that vulnerability and openness are working to sabotage me in some way. That by being open and expressing myself, I can see the truth in the situation, and if it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit. But then at least there's no sort of surprise where you almost feel like if you had only expressed yourself, you may have avoided some outcome that feels like it ended up being more of a shock because there was a lack of communication. This is very intriguing. It feels to me like Aries is really diving into relationships, communication, and being open with the expression, and having confidence in expression, having confidence in communication, being open, honest, and confident. So, really not feeling like you have to match energy or people please, but rather to feel like you can really express yourself as you feel honestly. Really interesting. Okay, Aries, that is your reading for Saturn transiting Pisces. We're going to be feeling this energy for 2.5 years. So I feel like the weekly readings are really going to reflect even more depth as we move through this. Okay, my friend. Taurus, let's get started and see what messages you're going to receive for this reading focused on Saturn moving into Pisces. Okay, Taurus. Let's see, where is this going to focus for Taurus? Interesting. Aries got a solar plexus card as well. So dissipating is coming through for you, Taurus. So that is showing me that right now, some patterns that have been long-standing in your energy, in your experience, are starting to you're losing your confidence in these areas. You're starting to question what or why you're still doing certain things. Why am I still doing this area of work? What am I still doing in this relationship? Those kind of questions, things that have been long-standing that no longer feel empowering, that the energy around confidence is dissipating. It's moving in a way that's not it's not stable anymore. It's sort of waning. So you might be experiencing this in a lot of different areas, but it seems like that'll be the big question for you to sort of look at, is where am I starting to lose confidence in my experience, where in general, like really sort of looking at the whole picture and saying, in what ways and in what areas am I starting to lose my confidence, my sense of I can? You know, where am I starting to feel that energy is dissipating? Yeah, and look what comes out. The Strength card in reverse, which is really feeling like you can't tame that inner lion, like you're losing confidence. You're finding yourself in a situation where you don't necessarily feel like you can overcome the obstacles that are presenting themselves. And what came out with that? The Seven of Swords. So that shows me that is the limiting belief that you're carrying, that when we're feeling this energy of Saturn moving into Pisces, that's going to be something that is highlighted for you, which may feel really uncomfortable because it's showing you where you don't feel confident, but it's showing you where you don't feel confident and where you're maybe needing to switch into something else, or where you need to evaluate, why is this affecting my confidence? Perhaps it's just dissipating in terms of energy that I want to give to this. Perhaps I want to do something else now. Perhaps this is a signal that this isn't where I need to be investing my energy. Or for some of you, it may actually be that you need to really look at why is my confidence so low about something in particular? There's an area where you may not feel very confident right now, Taurus, and you're being challenged to look at that limiting belief with the question, well, why? Why are you not feeling confident? And to sort of understand that may be an emotional wound that you've been carrying about something. Look at all these cards that came out for you. It could also be that you're in a situation where you're comparing yourself to others, and that's really hurting your self-esteem. You're comparing yourself to the external world and feeling like you're not good enough. And it's really affecting your confidence, and you're being guided to move away from that kind of energy because it's not serving you. That's making you feel stuck, to hang on to this idea that you should be comparing yourself to people in the first place, instead of just focusing on what feels like a good fit for you. It feels like whatever it is that is making you feel a lack of confidence could be coming from the fact that you're comparing yourself to others. And that's forming and developing this limited belief here in the Seven of Swords. And you're being guided to choose something empowering. This is you in the Two of Wands, choosing a pathway where you toss that limiting belief that says you can't overcome obstacles, and that you know that you don't carry the self-esteem that you're worthy. And so you sort of start from a new playing field, and you say to yourself, I can. And you start to really believe that, and you choose things that you want to do. That could be why you're losing the confidence, is because you're doing something over and over again that you don't want to do anymore, that maybe the energy around that experience is done, you know, and you might be misunderstanding that experience by saying, well, no, I'm not good enough, Five of Cups, or they're better than me over there, Five of Wands. Do you know what I mean? And we see the Three of Cups here again, this idea where you feel like, you know, you've got competition, and that you can't necessarily trust your colleagues. You don't see them as colleagues. You don't see them that way. You see them as your competition. And you're maybe carrying this energy here. We're seeing the King of Rods, which is a beautiful energy of confidence that says, I can, you know, and it's upright, which makes me feel like you have access to this. As Saturn transits Pisces, you have access to this for 2.5 years. So that tells me that you will figure this out, Taurus. You will figure this out. You will find your confidence, but I feel like it's going to be doing a different action. So whatever action or event or experience that is bumming your confidence out, and you're starting to feel this lack of power, low self-esteem, starting to get misunderstandings in your inner definitions of yourself, because, you know, the experience is complete, but if you're trying to push it past its done date, you know what I mean? It's due date. It's better than before. What is that expression? How do you say that? The best before date. Sorry. Yeah. Best before date. If you push something past that date, then of course it's going to start to feel uncomfortable, but it's almost like you've taken that and you've understood it as being, I'm no good. and I'm not good enough, and they're better than me, and I suck. And those limiting beliefs, it's a big misunderstanding. You're taking an experience and you're interpreting it that way because you've been carrying that limiting belief around with you in your Seven of Swords, and it's popping up, it's popping up, and it needs clearing, and it needs discovery. And bottom of the deck is the Hermit, which is exactly how you're going to sort this out. You're going to find a different perspective, and you're going to shine light on the situation so you can understand it. And then it feels like you're going to have access to this King of Wands energy that's really motivated, very confident, very creative, ambitious, and believes strongly in the self to overcome any obstacle, and to continually sort of have this like access to the environment within that sort of is the driving force, saying, let's do this, and sort of having this open channel of communication where you don't doubt yourself and you don't question those messages that come through the body or the will. I mean, it's interesting because the seat of the will is the solar plexus. That is where you say, I can, and then you do. You take that inspired action that comes through that solar plex, and you access it and you utilize it with inspired action. And I feel like that's exactly what this is bringing to the surface, which may feel uncomfortable because of the hit to the self-esteem. But if you can somehow take the message you're having in your experience and see it as for your highest good, instead of somehow it feels like you're interpreting it as evidence that you're no good at something. You know what I mean? Instead of seeing it that way, seeing it as a signal from the outer world telling you that something in the inner world is just, it's done doing something. It doesn't mean you're not good at it anymore. It just means that it looks like you want to do something new, and there's nothing wrong with that. All right, Taurus, thank you so much for joining me for this reading. And, I really think we're going to see this energy carry through in all the weekly readings. So I look forward to reading for you again soon. Gemini, welcome to your reading. Let's get started and see what messages you'll receive as Saturn moves into Pisces. What will the focus of this transit be for Gemini? Okay. Gemini. All right, 2 cards coming out for Gemini. We see self-worth in the sacral chakra and trickery in the heart chakra. Very interesting. So you're going to be looking at the illusions you have around self-worth and realizing that it's an illusion. That whatever you're telling yourself about having this idea of low self-worth or a lack of self-worth, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not worthy, or I don't deserve, you're going to be able to start to see where you're tricking yourself, you're fooling yourself, you're limiting yourself with your beliefs around, it feels like, emotions. So your emotions are sort of misleading the situation. Something might be happening around you that makes you feel like a lack of self-worth, but it's not real. Your worthiness is always present. This is an illusion that is coming from a place that almost needs love. When I see the heart chakra card, this is a time where, Gemini, you need to be very loving to yourself and not make statements maybe about things like I'm not worthy, but truly seeing yourself as worthy, or looking at why you don't see you're worthy. Why don't you see that you deserve this seat here? Where are the areas that you don't feel self-worth? That is the focus for you, Gemini, is where are the areas where you're tricking yourself, where you're believing the illusion that your self-worth isn't your birthright, that you're not worthy just by being yourself. That's interesting. What are the areas? Oh, look at that. When I cut the deck, we see the Hermit and the 3 of Swords. So that tells me that there's a wound there. There's a wound that's going to get sort of brought to the surface over the next 2.5 years as we experience Saturn sitting in Pisces. And it's going to bring out issues of self-worth and how you're, if you're believing the wounded self, how that's false, and that's almost like trickery here on the emotional level. Ooh, that just flew on the floor. It's the 9 of Wands. So yeah, this is a time where you've got really high boundaries. You're not maybe letting people in. You might be doing everything by yourself because you don't think you deserve support or any sort of, yeah, look at that. There's the 10 of Cups in reverse. You don't believe that you deserve this happy ending. On an emotional level, I feel like you might be saying to yourself, we're never going to be fulfilled. We don't deserve it. We're not worthy of it. You know, very, very judging of the self, Gemini. And it feels like that is the energy that needs to be looked at because it's not, it's false. And there's the 8 of Wands moving really quickly. It's moving really quickly, this energy, to sort of get you to look at this. And so you might be seeing a lot of signs and synchronicities around you. This might be something that like just seems to come up all the time lately, where you're questioning your self-worth, or people might be triggering you to defend yourself and you're wondering why you're so triggered. And it really could be that things are starting to happen so that you do defend yourself, so that you do sort of plant those seeds that say, it almost feels like you're having how dare you moments. And in those moments, you're sort of planting those seeds without knowing it, where you're saying, you can't treat me that way, you know, and you have these how dare you moments. And the true name of that anger is this deep sadness that says, I'm not worthy. And so it's interesting seeing the Knight of Pentacles, because I feel like that is this planting of seeds energy, where you're sort of one by one sort of examining areas where you feel a lack of self-worth, or you feel triggered in an area that causes a how dare you moment. If someone doesn't treat you like you're worthy, it sort of triggers it, right? Seeing that Ace of Swords tells me this is going to be something that challenges your way of thinking about yourself, that these are thoughts and emotion. Like, I also see emotions in this green heart chakra card, but that generally it's the thoughts you carry about emotional fulfillment that are the center of what is shifting for you. And on the bottom of the deck, we see the 2 of Pentacles in reverse, which tells me that I don't think you know exactly how to get through this right now, that you almost feel like you have to cut through some red tape. There's definitely some boundaries that need to come down, and some sort of it almost feel like I see a lot of like this idea of feeling bound up by red tape, where you've got to, it almost feels so overwhelming. You're not sure where to begin to untangle yourself, because this 9 of Swords or 9 of Wands is at a time where you need a lot of self-care by this point. You know, like this has been going on for a long time, and it feels like there's so much of it that you almost need to tease your way out of this, because it's caused you to doubt things on a significant level when it comes to this self-worth idea, this idea of feeling a certain lack of fulfillment and not really feeling like you deserve more or better than that lack. That it's not even possible, almost, is what it feels like. And that's the beginning here, is shifting that perception, because I feel like intuitively you're being guided to move quickly into this. There must be something shifting on the horizon for you, because seeing this 2 of Pentacles, look at that, the Magician is right there reminding you that it's as above, so below. So perhaps that's why this energy is moving so quickly. But this 2 of Pentacles in reverse makes me feel like this has been looping for a while. And so it's like, how much of this can you be surrounded by before you have to do something? You know what I mean? And I think that's what your reading feels like, is that it's gotten to a tipping point where you now have to move into this honestly and with a lot of self-love and without judgment, but just with this idea of like, I'm going to take care of this once and for all. Like I'm done being surrounded by these loops where everything seems interconnected, and I run into the same obstacle over and over again, because at the foundation there's this self-worth that's, not balanced right now. It doesn't feel balanced. And so that may be where you start to feel things coming to the surface, Gemini. We have 2.5 years to sit with this, so there's time to explore it and really heal it. This is an opportunity for all of us to really look at where we need to shift out of some limited beliefs. And yours is coming through on that self-worth level, really bringing that inner child into acceptance and full unconditional love. All right, I'm going to leave it at that for you. Thank you, Gemini. Looking forward to reading for you again soon. Cancer, welcome to your reading. Let's see what messages you will receive as Saturn moves into Pisces. What will the focus be for Cancer? Sun, Moon, and Rising. What will the focus of this transit be for Cancer? Expansion. Love it. This is throat chakra energy, expansion. So it almost feels like, looking at this card tells me you're going to have the words to express something that you've been feeling needs completion. It almost feels like you're going to have the words to express that, and you're going to be able to expand on it. You're not going to feel like you don't know what to say or how to approach something. It feels like you're really expanding on your ability to speak in balance in a way where you can bring completion to something. It almost feels like it's going to be related to a tendency towards saying things to please people, like saying things that you might not necessarily mean, or you might be not sugarcoating it, but you might find it difficult to express your true feelings. So you might just end up saying something else because you don't know how to sort of say what you want to say or say how you really feel. That feels like it's expanding for you. There's the Magician. Yeah, card 1. I mean, you're stepping into this energy of, I'm going to be balanced. Like whatever happens on the inside, I'm going to express outwardly, and I'm not going to censor or sort of pretend to be something I'm not, or say something that's not authentic. It's very interesting. It's very balanced. The inside matches the outside in that regard of how you're communicating. You know what I mean? It's very intentional, and it seems like you're starting to see that your words really matter, like how you express your personal truth. You see an expansion on what you focus on. Oh yeah, look at that. Of course, Cancer, your cards are so transformative. You've got the Magician and the Death card. And then we see the 8 of Wands in reverse, which says, to me, that's a Tower card. And I think I saw the Tower on the bottom of the deck earlier. So that tells me that there could be a lot of transformations for you, where you start to really shift out of anything that's not authentic. Like, this is you really connecting to your true self. And I think seeing the 8 of Wands in reverse tells me this is going to have significant change impact. Like the outcome of you being authentic and really staying in that space that says, I am, and owning that no matter what. It almost feels like that catalyzes this huge shift for you that could change things in a way that's quick, like it's sudden, you know what I mean? And it's very expansive, and it feels like you almost have the words to communicate exactly what you is your personal truth, and you're not censoring yourself. What's the outcome going to be? Oh, wow, love that. The outcome: strength, courage, inner confidence, confidence to Cancer. This isn't confidence that comes from external validation. This is you being confident in yourself and knowing that you are the architect, that you're the creator here, and not being afraid to tackle that inner lion. That's your inner lion, and you're not afraid. I feel like you have found courage and strength through this expansion in communicating and corresponding your personal truth, and it's changing things. You're changing your outer reality by shifting within. That inner shift is what creates the outer shift, and that's exactly what's happening here. And I feel like for you, it started with how you are speaking, how you are communicating, how you are expanding on your communication of truth, your truth. And it's like it's given you the confidence and the strength to go deep within, to understand what that truth is, and then I feel like it's expanding. And on the bottom of the deck, we're seeing the Page of Swords in reverse, which tells me that this isn't a time where you're getting this message about this shift, but I feel like at this point you're not fully accessing it just yet. It's interesting. I feel like seeing the Page of Swords in reverse tells me that this process is going to put you on a very different track. Like you're going to see so many changes that you're starting from the beginning, right? The page is bringing in a message for you. And I feel like it's saying, get ready to see things from a whole new perspective. And it feels like it's very, it almost feels like there's this nervous energy about it, and it's transforming into strength. Do you know what I mean? It's expanding, like it's going from this very young idea where it's very nervous and perhaps a little unfocused in terms of how to do it and what to say, and that transforms and expands and brings in so much confidence, and it's transformative. Like this is a transformative moment in communication, confidence, and manifestation, where you understand that to shift the outer reality, we must first shift within and match the reality within that we want to create, and then we attract it. It actualizes. And I think that's going to be a very transformative and expansive process for you, Cancer. This is going to be really interesting. It would be very interesting for you to look at your chart, Cancer, to see where Saturn moves into which house for you in this transit. Where is it going to be sitting for the next 2.5 years? That would be interesting to know, because then you'll see where these changes are going to take place on the whole. But overall, you can expect a lot of changes in how you are using your throat chakra to communicate your personal truth, and how you're moving from a place of nervous energy to confidence and strength in your ability to communicate. You might be stepping into like for some of you, you might be finding yourself speaking a lot more. Like you might be starting a podcast, or you might be lecturing, or you might be starting a YouTube channel where all of a sudden you're going to start to hear yourself talk all the time. It's interesting. Or writing. This could be coming through. I feel like it's coming through in terms of your throat, like you're speaking, but for some of you, this could be coming through as writing. You might be starting to write a book. You might be starting to write your memoirs. There's something here where you're connecting to your inner self, and you're talking about your truth here. Your truth based on your life experience, or based on your musings. You know, it depends. It's general a little bit because there's so many of you out there. But very interesting. Very interesting. I feel like this is going to carry through as a theme for you for the next 2.5 years. So we will see you again for another reading very soon, Cancer. Take care. Leo, welcome to your reading. Let's see what the focus for you will be as Saturn moves into Pisces. Where will the focus be for Leo? Let's see, Leo, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Ooh, bittersweet. This is throat chakra. Some bittersweetness with respect to communication. Interesting. Feels like overall it is an expansion for you when it comes to communication, but that there's something about this that feels bittersweet. Maybe bringing in some completion, maybe bringing in memories, nostalgic memories that are closing out, and it's almost like you have to acknowledge this. You might be headed into a place where you start to resist because of the bittersweet quality. Let's see here, Leo. There's this Eight of Wands in reverse. So there's sort of some changes that are moving quickly when we see that. And there's the Two of Wands in reverse. I see the Two of Wands in reverse as things lining up completely on their own. Very much a synchronicity card for me, where it's less about us choosing a direction and more about it just happening. And so these two cards could be seen as bittersweet because there's something moving quickly that is bringing in a lot of change, but actually it ends up lining you up perfectly for something. But it could be at the cost of something. Let's see. Is it at the cost of something? Why is this bittersweet? Nine of Wands in reverse. Interesting. It is setting you free, and you're going to be able to take the lead on something. Ah, there it is. And there's the Five of Pentacles. So this could be a time where, yeah, it's very bittersweet. There's almost an exchange happening here. It almost feels like your new life is going to cost you your old life, Leo. And this is happening at a time, look at all of this fire energy, man. You are in your element, but there's something in the material world that you may have as a cost. There may be a relationship. There may be something you've grown attached to that you must surrender, and that's why it's bittersweet. So it could be that your ambition is moving you forward, because there's a lot of wands here and the Emperor. So this feels to me, Leo, like your ambition is moving, like you're gaining momentum. Your vision is about to be fulfilled. Even though you're exhausted, everything is about to line up for you. You've been working so hard and everything is about to line up for you, but it almost feels like it's bittersweet because there's sacrifices that were made here or will be made. There may be things that feel like losses as a result of this, even though there's a lot of success here and it feels like a lot of forward movement. It almost feels like it's coming at a time where there's also going to be some loss, and not loss that's catastrophic, but loss in the sense of almost like having to say goodbye to a chapter that you may not have felt was related to this, but it almost feels like your old life is going to cost you your new life here. And what I'm picking up on is that there's something about this that you may have been kind of really guarded about, and the aspect of this that feels guarded almost feels free now. So that's really positive. Like, I don't want to focus too much on that Five of Pentacles because I actually feel like it's going to be bittersweet, but then ultimately what you move forward into is setting you free. So the idea of loss doesn't exist moving forward. For what I'm seeing here, you're being set free from things that felt like burdens and things that felt like they weren't moving, and you felt like you were stuck. That's all shifting. That's all over. That's all shifting quickly. And it feels like it's lining you up for success all on its own. It's very It's very much like serendipitous. It almost feels like a lot of synchronicities are going to be happening. Like you could be seeing a lot of things just line up. Like you say out loud what your obstacle is, and then all of a sudden a solution presents itself, and you're like, how did that happen? You know, you might be saying to yourself a lot lately. You might be saying to yourself, well, that couldn't have been a coincidence. What a huge coincidence. There's no way. I just said the other day that I needed so-and-so, and then it showed up. Like that kind of stuff. And so will there be a big change? Yes. Is it going to involve a bittersweet balance between loss and gain? Yes, it looks that way. But is it going to line you up for success? 100%. Is this expanding? Yes. Is this setting you free? Totally. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot here. It just feels like there's some aspect of this that you have to leave behind in order to be set free. And so, you know, Leo, it's interesting. For some of you, it could be a relationship. For some of you, it might be that you have to move, you know, and you might not want to move. So it's a little bittersweet. But for some of you, it might cost you some money to get started. There might be an investment up front, and you're worried about it. But ultimately, it ends up working out great. You know what I mean? Like this feels like a time where you're looking at what is scary and brings up fear for you that will also set you free. So this really is a time to look at boundaries and limits, because I feel like you're about to have a very new beginning here, something expanding from scratch that you're at the leadership role of, and you're really moving with a lot of confidence here, and I think you feel set free. But it's like, yeah, whatever was holding you back, you have to leave that behind. And that thing that's holding you back could be a lot of different things depending on who's listening. But it definitely is something in the reality. Like it's something grounded in the material world, because it's pentacles. So it could be a relationship, could be money, could be that you have to move locations. It could mean that you have to there's something that you have to exchange to take on this new part of your this next chapter. And so it's bittersweet, but I feel like it also is going to help you really articulate to yourself what your wishes are and what your aspirations and goals are. And then I think you're going to just go for it. Even just that initial willingness to surrender, I think is going to be the thing that lines everything up with this Two of Wands. Wow, what an interesting reading for you. We're going to keep seeing this energy for another 2.5 years. So your weekly readings, I'm sure, are going to expand on this as well. Okay, Leo, thank you so much for joining me. I look forward to reading for you again soon. Take care. Virgo, welcome to your reading. Let's get started and see where the focus will be for you as Saturn moves into Pisces. Virgo, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Let's see, where will the focus be for Virgo? Oh, interesting. Okay, so Virgo, for you, this is going to highlight where you feel like a victim. Where are the areas that make you feel this victim energy? And we all carry this in some way, shape, or form. The archetype of a victim is one that we feel from time to time, where I always think of this as sort of when we have moments where we feel like that how dare you energy, where something has happened and maybe we haven't been able to stand up for ourselves, or we got ourselves in a situation where we felt powerless, or somehow we were not empowered in our own selves to feel like we can act or feel that there is love present, unconditional love. This is the energy of the heart chakra. So there is this energy here of the victim. Okay, so for you, Virgo, it makes me feel like you're going to see where that happens. When does that come up for you? Where are there feelings that maybe you need to be more honest with yourself, because perhaps there's some denial about a sort of experience right now that you're feeling that brings up this victim energy. It's very interesting. Really needing to be honest with the self is where this card sort of brings our focus, is needing to be honest with ourselves and sort of not being in denial about something that we feel underlying anger about, like that how dare you energy, and needing to be honest with ourselves about that, which could cause a lot of change, in your immediate current situation, because perhaps there is something in your energy field that is bringing that feeling of victim and removing this almost feels like this sense of inner power. And as I say that, we see the King of Wands come out in reverse, which is a time where you do feel powerless and very frustrated by it. And you may even have like explosive emotions, because when you have those how dare you moments where you feel like you're a victim of something, that can be very disempowering and can cause a huge triggering reaction, especially if that's a pre-existing kind of area that already has a lot of sensitivity around it. Seeing the Wheel of Fortune come out with that king is interesting, because I feel like as you look at this, you're going to start to see yourself moving forward, and it's going to cause a lot of reflection. I think this is going to be something that once you understand it, you'll be able to shine that light of knowledge on a lot of things where you may have been feeling like a victim, but denying it to yourself, and just sort of sometimes we project it onto the outside and say, well, that person's a jerk. You know, that person's a this or a that. When really it's sort of like, well, what is that person teaching you about yourself? And in this case, it feels like that there's anger about feeling like a victim. And this disempowerment triggers that anger. And I think you're going to shed some light on it here so that you can understand it and release it. Yeah, it's bringing up shadow work. There's the devil energy, which is Saturn. So it's coming through here to remind you of the shadow that you carry, that you may be in denial of most of the time. Like you may deny it to yourself most of the time. And there's the High Priestess on the bottom saying that your divine connection is bringing this to the surface to get it to your attention. So really feeling like you can connect into your higher self for guidance here, because you're moving through a process that is going to expand you. You're moving through in a process where you're going to shed some light on a shadow that needs clarity, that needs understanding and openness, so that you can bring it into love. You know what I mean? Because essentially there's a wounded aspect here that feels like a victim. And that may have been in this lifetime or previous lifetimes. Something happened that robbed you of that feeling of power, and you felt like you were sort of like a sitting duck, like that someone could take advantage of you. And that it triggers now, once it goes into denial, if something happens to just come near it just a little bit, it triggers a massive reaction. The King of Wands in reverse is like an atomic bomb of emotion going off, and it's not going off in joy. This is happening in a state of how dare you, and it's anger. There's frustration and anger. Imagine your will rejecting something so strongly that you go off. You know, it's a snap show for sure, but a very wounded energy when we see this. One that is unable to accept anything that even comes close to this because it's so wounded. You know, it's like, if you can imagine, if you have an infection and something, you know, just grazes the skin near the infection, it can be very painful and sensitive. So it's the same thing, you know, it's the same thing. Something's really pushing on that right now to get you to bring it to the surface and look at it through a different perspective, one that sees the whole picture and tries to understand how this is healing a part of yourself that may be in denial and needs to come out of the shadow and into the light, where it can be looked at through the lens of your higher self, with unconditional love and without judgment, but just with honesty, so that you can sort of see what the dynamic is. Why is this here? And how can I feel more empowered instead of like a victim? And not judging it, but just learning from it, learning from the experience, because that's what this is all about. Just looking at things from different perspectives, but without getting stuck. This is stuck, you know what I mean? But eventually it feels like it moves forward for you with that Wheel of Fortune. And the Wheel of Fortune is also making me feel like this is serving you. Like, this experience may be very uncomfortable and it may trigger this sort of atomic bomb of emotion, but ultimately it serves you. It serves you to release that energy and vent it out, so that you can look at things from a different perspective. Because it can be really hard to do that when we're holding all that how dare you anger within. And it feels like that's where you're going to get to work, and that it's going to be coming to the surface to be released. So that will be present with us for the next 2.5 years. I'm sure we will see it in lots of your weekly readings coming up as a theme for exploration. And I look forward to reading for you again soon, my dear Virgos. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. We'll see you again soon. Take care. Libra, welcome to your reading. Let's see what messages we have for Libra, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Where will the focus be for Libra as Saturn moves into Pisces? Okay, Libra. Dissipating. Another sign got dissipating. I'm gonna take it because it came out, but I'm also gonna shuffle one more time to see if there's another energy present that wants to express itself as a focus. Perseverance. Isn't that interesting? Dissipating and perseverance. That almost makes me feel like something is gaining momentum as something else is winding down. So Libra, it's almost like you're moving with perseverance forward towards something else, and moving away from something where it feels like you don't feel confident about something moving forward anymore. It's like you're changing gears and you're moving forward into something else. So you're moving from an energy where you feel like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. I feel like I'm kind of tapped out with something, towards something where you're like, now this I can invest in. I have perseverance towards this. And for some of you, it could be that you're trying to persevere where something is dissipating. You know what I mean? And that's the thing to examine, is why are you pushing so hard on something where you feel a genuine lack of energy? Why are you trying to make it be if it doesn't want to be, if it doesn't feel right to you on a confident sort of, in a way that's empowering? Why are you persevering towards it if it doesn't feel that way? You know what I mean? Like, it's an interesting 2 cards to receive. It can be taken a couple of different ways. And I feel like there may be a few messages depending on who's listening. So in some cases, this could be something where you're moving away from something towards something else, and you're giving it your full creative focus. Like, you're really moving away from something that feels like it's on its way down, and you're moving on something that's just taking off. That's one scenario that I feel. The other situation I'm feeling here is that some of you may be trying to push something that just feels over, and you're just trying to push it anyway because you're telling yourself, I'm going to persevere and I'm going to keep fighting for something, even though deep within you're sort of like, I don't really want to do this anymore. I don't feel energized by this. I don't feel empowered by this. I don't feel like I even want to get off the couch for this. And you're still pushing yourself, and that might leave you feeling really like you're sort of, you're forcing yourself to do something that you don't want to do. You know, in some cases that could be what's going on. And in other cases, it almost feels like it could be that you're being guided to persevere in something that you're about to give up on. So take it as it resonates. I'm sort of feeling those three scenarios very strongly, that you're leaving something behind to pursue something else. You're forcing something that's got to end, and you're just forcing it. And then in the other situation, it's like, don't give up on something. So we'll see if the tarot cards clarify this, because it feels like it could be that, there's three different scenarios. I just saw the Two of Cups on the bottom of the deck in reverse. So for some of you, this could be a relationship that just feels done. For some of you, it's a relationship that needs a fresh start, but don't throw the whole thing out. And for others of you, you might be leveling up in a relationship. You might be finding yourself sort of feeling like you need to be really honest with yourself about where this relationship is going. We see the Fool on the bottom of the deck. So in some ways, something needs a leap of faith. In some ways, something needs a leap of faith. Let's see what messages you'll receive here. Ooh, that fell on the floor. Okay, so we're seeing the Strength card come out. So that makes sense, because your confidence and your feelings of overcoming obstacles is highlighted here with this solar plexus card. And now seeing the Page of Swords in reverse says to me that there could be sort of an all talk, no action energy around this. So taken together, I can see the dissipating, because you're starting to feel like you're not confident necessarily about something anymore. It feels like you're confident in yourself, but you're not feeling confident about a certain situation, and right now you're just talking about it. You haven't taken action to do anything about it yet. And that could be where perseverance fits in that you're either going to fight for it or let it change. And as I say that, we see the Knight of Swords in reverse, which is a signal to me that change is necessary in this dynamic, that something's got to change. And if you don't change it, it's going to shift, because it's not in alignment. And there's only so long something can sort of resist a natural alignment before it just transforms into something else. And you can kind of resist it if you want, but it almost feels like that makes it more uncomfortable. But something has come to a natural conclusion. There's the World card, where it feels like something has come to a natural conclusion, and perhaps that idea of forcing something that has come to a natural conclusion is being highlighted here, and that it's going to shift anyway. And right now it feels like you have the awareness that says, I know this needs to change, but I'm not going to look at it right now. There's an aspect of this that feels like denial, and feels like kind of talking about it but not taking action. Like really almost like an energy of when we, sometimes when we're not satisfied with something, we might complain about it. And we might complain about it with our friends, or, if someone says, how are you? That might be the first thing you say is, oh, this situation is going nowhere and it's bothering me. And yet there's no action to follow through with that. It might be that you don't know what action to take when I see the Knight of Swords, and that you would take an action if you knew which action to take, or you might know what action to take, but you're like, I can't do that. For some reason, you feel like you're limited in terms of the action you can take. So that's why maybe you're just talking about it right now. But don't give up either way, because ultimately, this is a Tower moment. So ultimately, it's all going to shift anyway, Libra. This is going to change out regardless. And I kind of had that feeling like this is going to shift no matter what you do. But seeing the Tower, and there's the Eight of Cups. So it's going to shift in a way that maybe you have to walk away from something that you feel no longer resonates for you. This is going to bring up this transit into Pisces is going to put you in a spot where you have to examine things that you haven't taken action on, but you know things that you haven't taken action on, and you know certain things that are finished. So that's the theme that we're working with, is that you need confidence to take action on things that you know are over, instead of just sort of discussing it either to yourself or with your friends or a counselor or your partner or whoever you're chatting about this issue with. And there's nothing wrong with chatting about it, but it's almost like now you're being guided to take the next step and to persevere, trusting that anything that's not for you is going to feel like it's not for you. And it's going to, I feel like there's lots of indications around you. Yeah, look at all of these cards hiding here. Yeah, there's the move. There's the Chariot, excuse me. It really feels like you need to move on something here, Libra, and it feels like you know it. And that's where you're stuck is, well, what do I do about it kind of thing. And so don't give up. Don't give up. You persevere on figuring this out, because I think that ultimately it's going to shift no matter what. There's a bit of denial here. Okay, there is a bit of denial here that maybe the denial is coming through in this idea that you think you can kind of last in this situation that feels like it's not moving forward for you. The energy around it's dissipating. You might be like, well, I can do it. No big deal. I'll do it. And it's like, well, can you do it? Can you keep forcing this? This is interesting. I think it's all going to get sorted out, and we're going to see this energy for the next 2.5 years where this is going to be the focus. So it'll get sorted out one way or the other. All right, Libra, thank you for joining me for this reading. Looking forward to your next one already. All right, take care. Scorpio, welcome to your reading. Let's get started and see what the focus is for you as Saturn moves into Pisces. What will the focus be for Scorpio, Sun, Moon, and Rising? Okay, Scorpio, what will be the focus for you as Saturn moves into Pisces? Okay. Oh, wow. Look at that. Okay, so we're seeing destiny and perfection. Wow. Isn't that interesting? So it feels like, Scorpio, you're going to be looking at the concept of perfection and destiny. Destiny came out first, which makes me feel like you're about to move through a process that has been one that you're here to move through. This is meant to happen. And it feels like the idea of perfection is here because somehow this is a part of your identity. It's the red card, root chakra. Gray cards are the crown chakra. So there's something coming through both ends here. We've got the very top, the highest chakra, the crown, and the bottom chakra of the root chakra. So it's like how you ground into the earth and how you connect into your higher self. Both are being highlighted. One is bringing us to this place where it feels like there may be a part of you that overly focuses on things needing to be perfect, and this idea that you're being too hard on yourself. So in what areas, Scorpio, are you too hard on yourself and consequently others? Like, how are you projecting that perfectionism onto others, and how do you do it to yourself? Where is your focus right now? And what does that say about how you have this perfectionism as sort of a highlight in the background, always sort of guiding your movements? Does it cause you to be alienated from others? Does it cause you to feel that you're sort of always seeking, like there's never a time of feeling content? This is interesting. This is bringing up a lot of themes of acceptance, sort of feeling like you can accept yourself without this layer of kind of judging yourself at the same time, and then feeling like if it's not perfect, it's not good enough. You know what I mean? So that's very interesting. Now, this idea of destiny here is coming through for you, which kind of like brings up this idea when I see this card that makes me think that right now you're moving through something that you came to move through this. This is a key moment where you came to sort of take a certain risk or dare to have a certain life or take a certain decision about your life. This is a time where you're sort of, you're stronger here as you work with your higher self than you are feeling all alone. You know what I mean? And this is really about, are you willing to sort of go for something that you feel is a risk? So that gives us a bit of a clue here that this is about having faith. This is about taking a stand and having almost radical thinking about your ability to change something into something else. Like it really feels like this is something that is a big moment for you in terms of this lifetime. Something that you came to take this risk. And it has to do somehow with setting yourself free of this concept of perfection, not being defined by being really critical and judging of the self and therefore of others, right? Okay, Scorpio. Let's see what the tarot cards will reveal is the focus for you as Saturn moves into Pisces. There's the 10 of Wands. So you've got a heavy load on your back and the potential for a lot of abundance by choosing a certain path. And I think it's the path that involves risk. There's the Ace of Cups on the bottom of the deck. So that makes me feel that right now, Scorpio, you could be carrying this burden of perfection on your back. Okay, seeing this tells me that you're carrying significant burdens on your back. You might actually even be feeling pain in your back. You might be listening to this and sort of rubbing your lower back or your neck, your shoulder area. You might be experiencing some pain in your back as a physical sort of indication that you're carrying too much right now on yourself. You're being you're finding that you're in a space here where you might be really critical of yourself and taking on a lot of things that might not even be yours, but you're almost taking them on because somehow it's like you feel like somehow if you can manage all of this, that says something about your worthiness or your identity as someone who strives for the highest level all the time and always meets it. Like, this perfectionism is a very interesting one. You're defining yourself. That's how you feel secure, is when you do too much almost, is what I'm seeing here, Scorpio. And I feel like you're going to get an opportunity here that's destined to make a choice that might feel like a risk, to leave this behind and focus rather on feeling grounded in a different way. Seeing the 10 of Pentacles here tells me that you're going to start to feel that grounding and security, not by needing to be perfect, but by loving yourself unconditionally. Okay? That's why this Ace of Cups is on the bottom of the deck. I saw it when I was shuffling. I was curious if it would come through. But to me, Scorpio, your lesson as Saturn moves into Pisces is how to love yourself unconditionally. And how to feel grounded and secure in your identity without needing the validation or approval or even the pleasing of other people. That you don't have to please anyone to feel unconditional love for yourself. That you can offer that to yourself. And that it feels like that is one of the karmic lessons that you came here to do in this lifetime, was to love yourself unconditionally without this burden of perfection looming over your head, creating a lot of self-criticism and self-judgment. It feels like a very new and radical way for you to see yourself in the eyes of unconditional love, and to see that you can be secure in that without any validation, confirmation, or reciprocation from the external world. That you can be grounded in that and offer that to yourself. And it feels like that is this Two of Wands. That's this destined choice that we saw here, where it's time for you to take a risk and take this choice that is the one that is the radical way of thinking. And it feels like this is a radical way of thinking for you. It's unconditional self-love, without judgment, without criticism, and without external validation. Very interesting. This theme will continue for 2.5 years, Saturn, so you have a lot of time to work with it. before it sort of shifts into something else. So we'll see this more coming through in your weekly readings. All right, my friends, thank you so much for being here. I look forward to reading for you again soon. Take care. Sagittarius, welcome to your reading. Let's see what messages we have for you. What will the focus be for Sagittarius as Saturn moves into Pisces? What will the focus be for Sagittarius? Let's see here. As Saturn moves into Pisces, what will the focus be for Sagittarius? Oh my goodness, interesting gossip. Okay, so this card coming through is an interesting one. It's a green card in the chakra deck, so it represents your heart chakra, which is at the center of your energy centers, the different chakras. And it kind of brings everything together. It brings in the lower chakras, which ground you to the earth and to yourself, and then also to the higher chakras, which ground you into your higher self through your divine connection, through the intuition, and through your throat chakra. So this card, this gossip card, is an interesting one because it's about misunderstandings. And the question this card brings out is, what am I resisting? What am I resisting? Where do I need freedom? How is my uniqueness from others creating a sort of a refocus in my life? And is there or are there valued relationships that if I don't appreciate will move away? You know, this is a time of evaluating relationships and how there could be misunderstandings that cause resistance. There may be a moment here where you are judging someone harshly, or you feel judged harshly by someone. And it's almost a time to thank that energy for bringing this to your attention so that you can sort of look at it from a different perspective. Whenever we see this card, it's almost a moment where it's sort of like you can see that there is something here that feels like a negative feeling towards another person. It's very specific, the energy of this card. It's about a relationship in your life, or because we're talking about energy that's going to be a present in your field for 2.5 years. This is focused on relationships, Sagittarius. So you're being guided to look at how you feel about certain relationships in your life. Are there some relationships that you judge harshly? Are there some relationships that you feel are judging you harshly, or that you feel the energy around relationships may be in and out of balance? And it might not focus on a particular relationship. It may, but it almost feels to me, because it's such an expansive energy that we're getting access to, as Saturn will be in Pisces for about 2.5 years, it almost feels like this is highlighting relationships for you in general, Sagittarius, and that's going to be what comes to the surface, is looking at how you interact with people and what you feel from that experience. What do you take away from your relationships as something that mirrors you? And what do you see in that reflection? If there's a particular relationship in your life where you feel a lot of triggers or instant judgment, where the person talks and in your mind you're thinking, oh my God, blah, 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 and you're sort of immediately making a judgment about somebody, then it's interesting, because that judgment may not be so much about the other person. That doesn't really make it what's interesting. It's what it says about you, that the person making the judgment, because oftentimes that is something we see in ourselves, and we can't quite say that to ourselves. We resist. That's where resistance comes into this card, is that we can't quite admit right away that that's how we feel about ourselves. And so then we tend to see it in other people. Or you might be like, well, that person thinks I'm an idiot or something. And that statement would reflect that maybe you think in some interactions with this person that you think that about yourself. You know what I mean? And then we tend to project it onto the other person. So this is bringing up a lot of relationship feelings where we're looking at projection and looking at denial and resistance and alignment and gossip, and sort of looking at how we interact with others when it comes to being in a relationship. And is it unconditional, or is it judgmental? Isn't this interesting? We're seeing the 10 of Cups come out and the 6 of Wands, which tells me that there is a feeling of a lack of fulfillment around relationships. The 10 of Cups in reverse says that there's lacking moments of balance. There's lacking moments of connection that feels like it's authentic. There feels like a lack of fulfillment when it comes to interacting in relationships in general, and that this could be friendships or romantic. You know, these are relationships that span the spectrum of relationships. And it feels like ultimately this could be rooted in the need for being acknowledged. Seeing the 6 of Cups tells me that there is a desire to be acknowledged by others. Excuse me. And that you may not be getting that in certain relationships. You may not be recognized in certain relationships. You might not feel seen in certain relationships. Seeing these cards together tells me that you might feel like you're really doing well in a lot of areas, but how come they don't recognize that? How come they don't acknowledge how well I'm doing? And then the question really becomes, as when you become the observer to that dynamic, to say, well, why do you need them to recognize and acknowledge you? And you might answer by saying, well, it would just be nice, you know, but really what's behind that? That is the depths that we're headed into with this Saturn moving into the transit of Saturn moving into Pisces. Is really looking at these things on a deeper level rather than sort of just taking them for granted as being like, well, it would be nice to be acknowledged. And it's like, okay, but let's take that innocent sentence and sort of dissect it. Why does it need to be that way? Like, why would it be nice? Isn't it nice that you're successful and that you can acknowledge yourself? Why do you need others to acknowledge you? Excuse me, I keep coughing, which is interesting. It feels like truly like we're looking at things that are being spoken about you, and that you're having a hard time interacting with people at this time. Hermit in reverse says that you could be just completely isolating from others because you're not finding what you're looking for in these connections. You might just have pulled away completely. And the bottom of the deck is the 7 of Swords, which tells me that you could be sort of buying into a limited belief right now instead of examining, well, why do I need people to acknowledge and recognize me? Why is that so important right now? Where is there a gap in acknowledgement and recognition that I'm trying to fill? Or what is this filling for me? How is this filling a need for me? Because I feel like you do feel unfulfilled in relationships and you're starting to pull away from them. You're starting to just sort of be in a vacuum by yourself. And even though you're very successful at whatever it is that you're focusing your energy on, I think you kind of wish that people would, in your life anyway, the people closest to you would celebrate you more. I wonder if we'll see that card. Yeah, this is causing some limited beliefs for sure. As I sort of part the deck to see what energy peeks through, it's all swords. There's the 4 of Pentacles, but other than that, it's all swords. So this is really in your thoughts. This is a belief system that you're hanging on to. So the energy of Saturn moving into Pisces could push you to question whether or not that belief is serving you or not. Because ultimately, it's you and you, right? It's you and then you reflected back at you. That's what other people are in this equation. So if the reflection coming back at you from others is dissatisfying or not as fulfilling as you think it could be, it's interesting to kind of start with the beliefs and be like, well, what are my beliefs right now when it comes to relationships and what I am looking for from my relationships? And then to ask yourself, why are you looking for those things? Like, what is it that they're fulfilling for you? And is it potentially a wounded aspect that is saying, in my relationships, I need to be recognized and acknowledged, by my friends for my moments of success. And sort of looking at, well, why? Why is that? When that's not present, why is it causing this need, this sort of desire to pull away, or even gossip? You might think you're the subject of gossip, or you might be talking about someone with someone else. It's interesting. This is really pulling out a heavy emphasis on relationships and the need for external validation. I think that ultimately you're going to come out of this offering yourself that validation and feeling like you can celebrate yourself whenever you want. Interesting. I'm going to leave it at that, Sag. Thanks for being here for this reading, and I look forward to reading for you again soon, my friends. Take care. Capricorn, welcome to your reading. Let's see for you, Capricorn, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Where will the focus be for you as Saturn moves into Pisces? For Capricorn, Sun, Moon, and Rising. What card was that? Ooh, mysticism, Capricorn. Yes, you're tapping into something here. This is a beautiful energy coming through to you that is going to reveal something along the lines of how to tap into that more mystic side of yourself. This is coming through your third eye chakra. Okay? And it's moving you into a place where you are not what you think you are. You know what I mean? This is a time of really, really tapping into your intuition. And it's interesting. I'm sort of being brought to this expression, this phrase of saying, like, to really understand who you are, you first must let go of who you are not. And that's really coming through very clearly. This is a time to ask yourself, are you paying attention to your intuition on a very fundamental level? That is the question of this card. And are you moving into areas to question your motivation, to trust the knowings you have, to look at where you have fears and where you have courage, to look at the journey that is sort of uncharted in front of you, and yet you're going to take it anyway and trust these senses. It's interesting, if you watched the full moon in Virgo pick a pile reading, one of the piles talked about this exact thing. You might want to watch that. But this idea of sort of mountain climbing in the moonlight, right? Where you can't see where anything is, but you trust yourself to navigate with your other senses. And this is a very interesting time to know that, to know what you're not, to be the observer. And I feel like Capricorn's last reading was titled Becoming the Observer. And that is exactly what this mysticism card sort of refers to. It's this idea of really approaching your experience by looking at the unknown, and which is not easy, but to not sort of feel this fear that comes up with the unknown, but to breathe and to know that your intuition will guide you, that you have a sense of knowing even without seeing, Capricorn. Very interesting. Let's pull out your tarot cards to see where in your experience you're going to be feeling this the most. And it would be an interesting time for you, Capricorn, to sort of look at your chart to see which house is Saturn moving into, to see where this is really going to impact you. Let's see here. Oops. Oh, interesting. Okay, so we see the Death card, so transformation, and we see the Five of Pentacles. So you are transforming anything that causes fear right now. Your focus is trusting yourself and not being afraid of things that feel like they could easily tip into losses. Seeing this Five of Pentacles tells me that the thing that you were most fearful of is being out in the cold. Something that makes you feel very insecure and unstable is the source of your fear at this time. It could be that financial instability triggers this. It could be that lack of grounding triggers this. It could be a lack of knowledge of the identity, like almost having like an identity crisis, not feeling like you belong in all of these categories, and then therefore feeling lost. And I feel like that is transforming, because these cards came out together and kind of in the reverse, which tells me that there may be a level of resistance here, but there also could just be this sort of fear that comes up, or this lack of trusting the intuition, a feeling that says, again, I'm being brought back to that idea of, to know yourself, you have to let go of what you're not. And I feel like that's where you need to make the examination, is what are the beliefs that you hold about yourself right now, and are they true or not? Because I feel like you're the magician, and we're seeing the magician on the bottom of the deck as I say that in reverse. And so this could be a time where you don't feel confident. You might be full of a little bit of sort of like uncertainty, that you're like, am I really able to change my own reality? And I think you're starting to see that the answer is yes. And you're like, oh man, if I can somehow apply what I believe to my own experience, I could turn everything around. That triggers a lot of fear for me. And I feel like the idea is almost to like test that right now, that's what you're being guided to play with a little bit, is to play within the boundaries of things that make you afraid, so that you can show yourself there's nothing to be afraid of. You know what I mean? And that the fear is only as real as it is in existence in your mind. Oh, did you see that? That was the Ace of Cups. So this is a time of really offering yourself a lot of unconditional love, and sitting in the vibration of love over fear, and choosing to focus on the abundance rather than the losses. And that is going to be very transformative for you, Capricorn. It feels like that's going to reveal to you some very profound truths about yourself and the path ahead. 5 of Swords, another 5. You're moving through this in ways that trigger fear and defeat. Isn't that interesting? The path for you to discover who you are lies in examining things that trigger this sense of loss, fear, defeat, and almost surrender, which is like a feeling in this card. The 5 of Swords sort of feels like resignation. It feels like surrender in the form of just realizing that it doesn't matter. You don't have to make people understand you. You just understand yourself. And we're seeing the 10 of Cups on the bottom of the deck, which tells me that you're moving into a space of emotional fulfillment, and that it's all transforming this. It's all transforming around areas that trigger fear, loss, feelings of separation, feelings of being someone who doesn't belong, a lack of grounding, a lack of belonging, a lot of fear on the material level. So things to do with, money, housing, work, relationships, feeling community. I feel like right now that's all shifting for you, Capricorn, because you might have gone through a period where you felt very lonely recently, and not lonely in the sense of like you could be standing in the middle of a party and still feel like you're the only one there. You know what I mean? Like where you feel this sort of separation from the group. And I feel like there is new beginnings here opening up for you, but it comes at a time where it's almost like you have to find a peace within that says not everyone needs to know or understand your perspectives on everything. You know, it's interesting. It's almost like you're turning a corner when it comes to how you communicate and how you perceive communication. I feel like you're done convincing people. I think you must have come into this, or you're coming into this idea that you don't actually need to save or heal anybody, that you are here to do that for yourself. We all are. And the way that looks for all of us is so different, that's why it's so an act of love to just not judge each other, because we truly have no idea what battles we're all going through. But ultimately, if we can just hold space for each other so that we can individually figure out our path, that is the most loving thing we can do for each other. And so I think you're almost coming to this realization that you were supposed to just love yourself all along, and to, by loving yourself, you project love onto others, because that's how we operate. We're very reflective that way. And so the emotion that we hold for ourselves is the one that we will project onto others. So if you love yourself, Capricorn, and you feel whole and complete within yourself, and you allow this sort of transformative love to lead to a lot of fulfillment for you on an inner level, that will be the mysticism that you share by virtue of just shining your light and being yourself, as someone who loves themselves would project that love onto others. So, wow, your reading is so different than the other ones. It's very interesting. It really feels like you're surrendering a pattern of behavior that has been one that you've used to form relationships for a long, long time. And now you're finally in a space where you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. I just want to focus on loving myself, which will in turn allow me to offer that unconditional love outwardly to others. You know, I almost feel like that's exactly what this guidance of mysticism is getting to the heart of here, is this unconditional love for the self that will expand and overflow to others. But you must give it to yourself first, Capricorn. That's your obstacle, my friends. That's what Saturn in Pisces is going to highlight for you. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you for joining me for this reading. I look forward to reading for you again soon. And I'm sending you so much love and light, my friends. Take care. Aquarius, welcome to your reading. Let's see what messages we have for Aquarius, Sun, Moon, and Rising. As Saturn enters Pisces, what will the focus be for Aquarius, Sun, Moon, and Rising? Ooh, okay, got two cards? Yeah. Okay, both are third eye chakra. We have gratitude and despondence. Interesting. I don't see the despondence one too often. Oops. But it almost feels like there is this polarity expressed in these two cards. Very interesting seeing gratitude and despondence coming out together, because the despondence card really focuses on where you feel immobilized. And this idea of, are you willing to trust yourself? And if there is moments here where there is stagnation, sort of looking at that. And are we able to accept consequences of our actions without sort of sitting in this space where you think that there's no way out. Instead, you find a road out through gratitude. Sort of interesting to see these cards coming out together, because like I was saying, the energy of the despondence card is sort of like feeling immobilized, whereas the energy of the gratitude card kind of raises your vibration. And that might be exactly what you're going to be looking at as Saturn sits in Pisces for 2.5 years, is this idea of not feeling immobilized by events or experiences, but rather finding a way to raise your vibration through gratitude by understanding what that experience taught you, by recognizing how certain experiences, albeit that can lead to stagnation and this idea of feeling immobilized and stuck. But there's always something to learn from those moments. And usually it's something very key, especially if it halts you right in your tracks and it won't move. There's something there for you to be paying attention to. And seeing the gratitude card come out with it tells me that this is a time of really having unconditional love for yourself and others, that will be the thing that frees you from feeling stagnation or feeling despondent or immobilized or stuck. That it will be unconditional love that ultimately sets you free, and gratitude. And I really think it starts with the fundamental question of, okay, I know I feel stuck and I know I feel immobilized and I know I this is very uncomfortable, but what is this experience trying to teach me? Where am I feeling resistance and what can I do about it? Instead of feeling like there's nothing you can do about it and then losing yourself in sort of this space that says it's always going to be this way. Very interesting. Aquarius. Okay. There's the Chariot in reverse. Stuck, stuck, stuck. Stuckity stuck energy. So not moving. How to move? Raise the vibration with gratitude. There's the Page of Cups flipping over for you saying, I'm bringing in a message of transformation. Are you in? You know, like the page brings in a message. And this Page of Cups carries a message of rebirth, transformation, and a clean slate. So it's like restarting things from a very new perspective of gratitude and unconditional love. That's what sets you free. And it's interesting. You got 3 cards coming out all at once here. We see the Hermit, the 2 of Swords, and the 5 of Pentacles, which tells me that there is a moment of pause and reflection required when we see the Hermit. That there is some introspection. You do need to look at things from the bigger picture in order to be able to see the gratitude. Because you might be thinking, what is she talking about? How could I possibly feel grateful if I feel completely stuck and immobilized? And it's the gratitude for the experience because it's teaching you something. And yes, it may feel like a loss, right? With that 5 of Pentacles, that's why I'm saying you might be like, how can I possibly be grateful for this? But there's always 2 ways of looking at things. There's your 2 of Swords. There's always 2 ways. You can either see it as I'm stuck and I can't move and I'll be here forever, or this is an opportunity for me to see how I can be flexible and adaptable and change a pattern to unstuck myself. And you're even being given the unstucking agent, if you will. It's gratitude. It's unconditional love. It's asking yourself what this experience, how is this experience moving me towards my highest good? Instead of being in denial and thinking you have to escape this fate somehow, that somehow this is a punishment, that you're stuck because of something that you did, or it's a punishment, and it's like you can see it that way, but I feel like that's going to create more stuck energy, which is why the Devil's in reverse. As opposed to this idea of sort of offering this situation space where you can look at it from a higher perspective to see that this situation, even if it is presenting itself as a loss and a very stuck, immobilizing energy where you feel almost like this, you can't possibly overcome this, that by looking at things from a bigger picture, by looking at things from a higher perspective, you're actually going to see how this is creating a new beginning for you to start from gratitude and love, as opposed to starting from a place that says, I give up. Do you know what I mean? Like it can be a game changer to change that mindset from I'm stuck to I got this, and I'm grateful for the experience because this is going to help me grow. This is going to help me release something that I may be feeling like I'm in denial about, and it's going to give me a brand new start. There's the Fool hiding under the Devil. And I feel like that's exactly what this is. This is going to give you the courage to start a new direction. And I think your focus will be gratitude and unconditional love. Oh, it's very interesting. Now, Aquarius, this energy will be present for about 2.5 years. So you have lots of time to explore it and experiment with it and unpack it and really work with it. So I'm sure we'll be seeing themes of this coming up in your weekly readings. All right, my friends, I'll leave it at that, and I look forward to reading for you again soon. Take care. Pisces, welcome to your reading. All right, let's get started and see what messages we have for Pisces, Sun, Moon, and Rising as Saturn moves on into Pisces. What will the focus for Pisces be with Saturn's energy? Okay, we got 2 cards. We see forgiveness flipped. Oops. And self-worth. Oh, wow. Isn't that interesting? What's on the bottom of the deck? Facade. I haven't been looking at the bottom of the deck, but I did feel like it for you, Pisces. So let's take all 3. So we see self-worth, which is a solar or a sacral chakra card. We see a third eye card of forgiveness and a facade in your solar plexus. So this is really coming through on an emotional level, on an intuitive level, and on a level of confidence, your personal power. Those are the areas that you're going to probably be examining as Saturn makes itself at home in Pisces for 2.5 years. So this is interesting. It makes me feel like there's wounds that need to be forgiven. And as I cut the deck, we see the 6 of Swords with the Queen of Swords, and you can see that Page of Cups wants to make an appearance. So there may be some things you've been hanging on to. Queen of Swords in reverse could hold a grudge very, very well, actually, and really be angry about something, or really hold resentment on something that was painful that needs to get cleared. You need to get distance from something here through forgiveness. And it's something that impacted your self-worth. It may have been something that was a facade in the sense that it was an illusion. There may have been some trickery here, or something that was lack of authenticity, and it wasn't as it appeared. And it impacted your self-worth. Yeah, there's the High Priestess in reverse, which makes me feel like you're hanging on to something that's limiting your ability to see things from a different perspective. You're holding on to something that's impacting your intuition because you're resisting something. This feels like forgiveness would set this free. There's the Ace of Wands. Feels like a new beginning could be possible here that would empower your self-worth, that would empower your confidence. And that is the motivation for forgiveness, not necessarily to make contact with whoever you're forgiving or whatever you're forgiving, but to offer yourself that forgiveness. Yeah, there it is. It's back. To get distance from something that was limiting you, to get distance because you're the wounded warrior that needs to heal. This is about really acknowledging something and then healing from it, and actually moving away from it. So there may actually be a need to move away from something. There's the Death card on the bottom of the deck, revealing to us that this could be a sudden sort of transformative energy that comes along in the next 2.5 years that really changes things. It really changes things. It allows you to feel that self-worth and that unconditional love for yourself, and this renewal in your confidence and your ability to feel creative, to feel liberated enough to create. When the sacral chakra is blocked, we don't trust our emotions, and we don't trust the expression of our emotions because something has happened to tell us we're not worthy, or we have internalized an experience and made that the meaning of the experience. Well, I guess I'm not worthy of sort of expressing myself as I feel, or something may have impacted your sensuality or your emotional center where you now feel blocked from expression, and that forgiveness may heal this. It may allow you to get distance from it by reframing it in some way to see the illusion in all of this. It's interesting that facade card came up with this because it's funny, I saw it when I was shuffling for you, but it feels like if you're unhappy in your relationships, it may be related to a false sense of duty or responsibility or obligation. Give up being something that you're not, because then you will feel like you're not dissociating from yourself. Because when we step into these moments where we almost feel like we're not being authentic, it can really feel quite dissociative, where we're not ourselves in certain moments. And that can be very sort of I don't know, it can really set off the alarm bells for us if we're paying attention. And there's this need for you to sort of reclaim yourself, to heal a deep childhood wound. I feel like this, we're seeing two children in both of these cards. And I really feel like this is an inner child wound that just keeps presenting itself, Pisces, where you don't feel worthy. And I feel like there's something you need to forgive so that you can be free of this limitation and this feeling of dissociating from yourself. This isn't who I am is sort of the key phrase of this card. Like, this isn't who I am. This isn't me. This is the wounded expression of something. The inner child needs to be sort of made to feel whole again. And I feel like there may be something deep within that intuition that you're denying to yourself, because it might be very painful to revisit this moment. But ultimately, this is something that your soul needed to experience for growth. And I don't mean to say that to trigger anybody or to make it feel like anything happened in a way that, that you created this. But ultimately, we are here in this dense reality to experience things in order to release karma and also to experience things from a different perspective. So something happened here that robbed you of your self-worth, and it made you feel that way. But I feel like there is something here that is calling you to sort of release this facade already, to give up this idea that you don't have self-worth because something happened in your past, or maybe a past lifetime, and it really feels like that needs to transform. It needs to be reclaimed. It needs to come into healing. And that is what Saturn in Pisces is highlighting for you, Pisces, is deep emotional healing and transformation. It's not an easy order, but one that is going to serve you and your soul, because then you don't have to maybe do this next time. If you know what I mean, like if you believe in karma and in the idea of revisiting this earth plane to try things again and again until we sort of reach our highest good in a certain situation, then that's what's happening here. This is playing out for you to choose you and to do some deep emotional healing where it impacts your feelings of self-worth. And there's something here for you that needs to be let go through forgiveness. I'm just going to look here to see what the key words for that forgiveness card are, because I'm curious how the author of these cards wanted them expressed. But the forgiveness card really talks about healing, family healing, inner child healing, fulfilled wishes, holding on to past woundings, and sort of having your wishes fulfilled, to release this energy that almost harbors resentment. And we need to transcend through forgiveness in order to focus your intention on sort of having the idea of fulfilling your emotions and feeling whole and complete in your self-worth. This is very interesting. This is really about releasing resentments and inner wounds that will only be transcended through forgiveness. And the idea of wishes fulfilled here says to me that there's something that will sort of have space to develop once you release this resentment, that you'll be able to fulfill some dreams, goals, and wishes. But right now all of this is all tangled up in your self-worth. So it may be that this Ace of Rods is signifying that you could have a real handle on actualizing your biggest dreams, goals, and wishes if you make space by releasing resentment and transcending moments where you have felt a lack of authenticity, a lack of self-worth, and transcending those moments through forgiveness. Wow. Very interesting reading for you, Pisces. I'm not surprised. I was really looking forward to getting to the Pisces reading to see. Now, again, check your charts, my friends. Check your progress chart to see where Saturn is moving. Which house is it going to be in when it moves into Pisces in your chart? All right. That will be where you feel this focus the most. It'll help sort of unpack this for you. You've got 2.5 years with this energy to work with it and really release and transcend through forgiveness. All right, Pisces, I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you for joining me for this reading, and I look forward to reading for you again soon. Take care.